In the beginning of this school year, my first day, I found out that one of my students had passed away in an accident. And I had his brother. And his brother didn't take time off from school. This student who was in a war-torn country and went to a refugee camp and was in survival mode now here in this country, and had lost somebody just a few days prior that was so important to him. And it was important for him to sit in my classroom. It was amazing. And I owe it to him to make it worth his while. And when I'm given something like that, a gift like that, to remind me of why I'm there and why I'm teaching, that's what makes me the teacher that I am.
For AVID, professional learning is about ensuring that all educators have access to strategies and curriculum that will assist in preparing their students for college readiness. What happens in professional learning is really magical. The purpose of professional learning is to transform educator practice. We're looking for passionate, committed, talented individuals. First and foremost, they have to know their content. They have to be familiar with AVID strategies and use AVID strategies on a regular basis. And they have to have the kinds of skills to work with adult learners so that they can inspire those adult learners, those educators. When you become an AVID staff developer and you're working with 60 people over the course of the summer, or 200 people or 400 people over the course of the summer, and then you do the math and you realize how many students over the lifetime they will touch, it's very profound and it's exciting.
I'm Monica Sullivan. I teach at North Middle School for Everett Public Schools. I was previously a teacher in California and moved up here about 5 years ago. I had never heard of AVID before, and I began learning a little bit about it and some things I could implement in my classroom. Then I went to a summer institute after my first year here and started implementing the ELL program and certain concepts of it into my everyday teaching. We have about 67 English language learners in all levels, from newcomers to the country to students that have been ELL for some time now. The regular journey of a teacher is to get their administrative license and start a leadership role within the school and the school district. And I've always known that that's not me. I want that opportunity and to implement what I know I can do in the classroom and see if I can have that same success with adults that I've seen myself have in the classroom.
Oftentimes, after your first few years of doing the work, you've attended Summer Institute, possibly some other regional trainings, and you have the opportunity to meet other people who are doing the same work that you are doing. Eventually, if you're really good at what you do, and when we have the opportunity to observe them, either interacting with the students on their campus or perhaps even leading professional learning at their school site, we see a spark. And we know when we see that person or when we meet that person that they have what it takes to become a staff developer for AVID. So in the fall, the application process begins. Anybody can apply. And in recent years, we've received over 800 applications. Those folks that are accepted get assigned to summer institutes, and then they're invited to attend staff developer training. When we're reviewing those 800 plus applications, we rely on experience and we rely on how much professional learning they've actually engaged in prior to coming to us as applicants to be an AVID staff developer. We're looking for someone special. We're looking for someone in a particular region who can teach a particular strand, who has certain attributes or characteristics that is currently missing in the pool of staff developers that we have. So I had the opportunity to take a trip in Washington to Everett, and I visited North Middle School. It was a fairly typical visitation to go see AVID classes at North, and we were told that we were going to be visiting an ELL class, and that the teacher in that class was really outstanding, that she just had this magical touch.
So I have my capital letter, I have my punctuation mark at the end, and I have my final sound in the word what, Nigel? What word did we use? When I saw the staff developers last summer, I told myself that this is where I could be. And I'm gonna have to commit to that and commit to knowing what I need to do. If I really want to be there, I need to stop talking or thinking about it and express my interest to others. Calming down, calming down, calming down. Parker, we're gonna eat. Can you please calm down? Yeah. Thank you. I asked myself why go through this when I'm already putting a lot on my shoulders. And it's very personal, even though I have a family and I have to juggle all these things with my family. I want my children and my husband and myself to know that I can always do more.
I wanted to make sure that this was something that Monica wanted to do. So she attended the AVID Summer Institute last summer so that she could attend with wearing two hats. One was the hat of a participant. What does it feel like to be a participant in this strand? And what do you learn from that experience? But she also tried to wear the hat of a staff developer. So she was watching what the staff developers were doing. She was examining their moves and paying really close attention to the AVID professional learning practices that she saw in place. And that helped her to make the decision whether or not this was something that she wanted.
My mother was an immigrant from Mexico, and I never felt understood. I never felt understood, and not in an individual sense, in a learning sense. I always felt that my learning was different because the culture that I had been ingrained in was so much different than what was being taught. And my parents could give me, and they're absolutely wonderful parents, can give me all the encouragement they want, but when they don't understand the system, I'm not going to understand it myself. And it was such an incredible aha moment when I was introduced to AVID that I wasn't the only one, and that these students that were going through it did not have to go through what I went through.
I didn't know her history. I didn't know her story as a child, growing up as a second language learner, being the daughter of Spanish-speaking parents. I didn't know that her family had spent time in Mexico. I didn't know that she had so many kids and that not only does she juggle this amazing family life, but she also spends and dedicates so much of her time to North Middle School and to her students. Monica's the kind of person who gets down on her knees to interact with the students. She builds relationships with them. They trust her. They have fun in the classroom, but she's also very rigorous. She has very high expectations for what they're expected to do, and so the level of rigor has to be balanced with the level of fun so that they don't get completely overwhelmed. I knew that that would then translate into how she interacted with adults. Every single time I send out an email, I offer someone an assignment for Summer Institute, or I welcome a new staff developer into our family, I feel like Santa Claus. With Monica's situation, it was a little bit different because I had met Monica personally and I had reached out to her and requested that she consider applying to be an AVID staff developer, I actually called her up and let her know that she was going to be an AVID staff developer. I suspect that she felt very excited, but I also suspect that she felt very nervous about what this was going to mean for her in the coming months.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye. Hey babe, guess what?
Most teachers that don't teach year-round school have summers off, which is a misnomer, of course, because we all work during the summer preparing our curriculum and rejuvenating for the next year. When you become an AVID staff developer, you're committing to chunks of time where you're going to be working very hard. I mean, we work long hours. Staff developer training is very intense because it's like boot camp for Summer Institute. So there's a lot of implications, and it will affect her life this summer. But I also know that she is going to grow personally and professionally from this experience. And in the end, it's only going to positively affect everyone involved. In April this year, we pulled our staff developers together, and they spent 2 days working in small groups with other staff developers who are teaching the same content or the same strand. So Monica had the opportunity to work in a really small group of other English language learner staff developers. Monica is paired with one of our most experienced and talented staff developers, Billy Madigan. He's a brainiac, and he knows a lot. Not only just in his field with respect to language acquisition, but also about how brains learn. It's his field of expertise. Would I be intimidated working with Billy Madigan? Absolutely. So I can only imagine that Monica might have a little bit of trepidation about being paired with him.
I see it in Monica as I do many new staff developers. Their exuberance, their excitement, and really this is the hardest part. She really wants to do well, can kind of combine to be a little bit overwhelming at times, that she may want to be so good that she's going to overwhelm herself. That's the biggest concern I have about new staff developers, that they'll often be too self-critical, and it burdens them at the beginning. It kind of takes a little more of their energy away. It's just a concern in that transition to understanding and transition to doing it well, that it can be painful and be difficult and be a little bit disheartening at times.
Bill Madigan for me has been a name on a page in a curriculum that I've done for 5 years. Just a name, an author that I didn't know and didn't know who it was. And now I'm his student. He knows a lot more than me, and there's no way, and I'm not going to be able to fill his shoes. Obviously, he knows a curriculum more than me. He wrote it, those kind of situations. But he makes me feel a way from day one. The minute we walked in, we're family.
Biggest piece is that she looks through the syllabus, looks at the PowerPoint, sees the connections, clarifies language there so she understands what's going on, begins to have the metacognition of understanding how I can connect these things, how I can stop and process these things, how I can deal with challenges from adult learners. That piece, so foundationally, she's got to understand the program.
If I say, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse, is that person literally eating a horse? No. No, they're figuratively eating a horse.
The one thing that I have in my classroom that I find powerful that I won't have the opportunity here is in my classroom. The last period probably gets the best of me, because I've been able to go through the new lesson that I've tried and gotten the feedback and the responses from the students to make it better for the next group of students that come in. I want that first class to be as good as what my last period is at my school.
Probably the biggest gift she has is that when you're dealing with a difficult population that's more, it's not one monolithic group, it's different cultures, you're learning a lot of negotiation socially. And so she's probably learned a lot more than she realizes in that kind of setting. Also, children are a lot more immediate emotionally. Adults are too, but they hide it, so that makes it a little more difficult to read sometimes. The issue is expectations.
The insecurity comes from I've always been in front of the classroom, and I've been rewarded for being a good teacher and been, had all my pats on the back, and I knew I could stand in front of an audience. But the concept of being in front of adults and how many thousands, if not millions of students you're going to impact by what you're going to give them those 3 days. Yeah, that was a little bit of insecurity hitting and knowing I had to be on it.
It's good if you're a little scared because it leads you to think about it, maybe dream about it a little more, and that eventually does build the confidence because you think it through, well, what would happen if this happened? What would I do if this happened? And, oh, I'm still worried about that, so I'm going to go ask Mr. Madigan about that one.
Even though I'm very confident about doing it at this moment, I know how it goes when I'm out of the safe zone. I'm safe here, and I'm left to my own voices in my own anxiety about not being able to come back, and then the next time I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here and on stage.
Part of being a really effective staff developer is being prepared. So all staff developers leading up to Summer Institute are spending a lot of time reading their syllabus, going over their PowerPoint. I know staff developers who stand in front of the mirror the night before and practice saying what they're going to say and opening up an activity or leading a series of activities modeling certain strategies. I hope that all staff developers come to the Strand that prepared. But the reality is when you walk into that room, you have to be yourself. And some of it just has to be natural instinct.
I have to review my syllabus and notes that we made when we kind of talked today. The person that I'm co-presenting with, Bill Madigan, this is the first time we've seen each other since April. I know that I can't memorize pages of things, but to focus on what are the big rocks, what are the important things that these participants need to know, and doing everything in the AVID way. My students always have a certain respect and they know me, but one of the challenges is that these teachers don't know me, and they don't have to learn this information. There's going to be no final. There's going to be no passing of the grade. There's going to be no consequences if they leave during lunch and don't come back. There's not going to be the principal coming up after them. A lot of times I hear in other staff developments that I'm a participant in that teachers make the worst students. And I've been guilty of it, being sidetracked by other things and not being engaged with the facilitator. And a lot of other teachers have, without the thought that that could be me up there presenting.
For me, this is high stakes. I want to make sure that every single one of our staff developers feel prepared and ready to be the best that they can be. I want Monica to be successful because I want her students to be successful.
This is all the big rocks of what I will be giving them. So this is what from the training that they need to know. The one thing that they don't have that I've had the opportunity is I've taught from this book. I attended my first training on this, and I went with it in my classroom. I had tremendous success, and that book is with me all the time. So I'm going back to that book, and I'm going back to my notes, and I'm seeing it from a different perspective of what I want them to know, so that when they leave, they'll be just as passionate about diving into that book as I was, to have tools for what we're going to do. So I'm going to grab my book. with him, but obviously that's not possible, so.
Monica Sullivan, and I have a little exclamation point. This is her first experience with staff development, okay? And
My name is Monica Sullivan, and this is my paper bag speech to tell you about me.
well, I know that her greatest strength, especially the one-on-ones with teachers who have specific questions, she knows how to differentiate to their needs. And that's mostly because she has such a grounded understanding of the classroom. She's in the classroom with EL people, and that she knows exactly how to adjust and adapt for them. And I believe with her initial anxieties about she would like a more rigid kind of plan, she's going to be able to realize, hey, I'm able to flex and adapt and be flexible in my classroom. I could probably do this here. So when she makes that leap, and she's starting to, I think this will be a lot less stressful for her. I felt a lot of her anxiety like the first day when she said she upchucked, and plus there were some changes we had to make to the syllabus. So a lot of the ground she was standing on was shifting all over the place. And by the second day, she was already starting to look like she had her feet on the ground and was feeling much more confident and a lot more comfortable. And that was satisfying to watch. And this last day, I pretty much let the leash go as far as I could, and it turned out very good. And she's really confident about things. Also, some of the more dynamic and difficult things that you have to do that are more organic, she's picking those up too. So that's really satisfying.
I think that Monica is certainly a changed educator. There's no way that you can't be changed by this process. Becoming an AVID staff developer forces you really to become way more reflective about your own practice. You realize that you were doing things in your classroom that were automatic and natural, but in fact really intentional. And being able to identify those things and then translate that in a way that other adult learners can feel comfortable taking those things on it's a real skill set.
It's over. My first time is over. I can't say I'm a first timer anymore. Other jobs you can call in, you're not feeling good that day and call in sick or whatever. And that wasn't possible. Knowing how I felt in sick and popping the Pepto, and knowing I had a night of very physical ill because I put a lot of pressure on myself. For however long they've been teaching is going to change because of 3 days. Everything in this advice that people have been giving me and the veterans and Bill, and saying that it's going to be okay, you'll see. And no matter how many times people tell you that, you don't know until you experience. And then you're kind of sitting back and go, oh, I see now that everything was okay and they got something from it. AVID knows what it's doing. What touched my heart the most in these 3 days and what made it really important is Monday is my son's 6th birthday, and I'm not going to be there. And a lot of things, happened, and I had a long conversation with my husband last night, having that kind of guilt. What kind of mom am I not to be there? And I have a tremendous husband. And he let me kind of vent, and he sat back on the phone and said, remember why you're there. Remember why you made this journey and this sacrifice. He gave the phone to my son, and my son doesn't fully understand. He's turning 6, but my son's like, you can be home, Mommy? When are you going to be home? But in an excited way.
And I heard him in the background to my son say, "Mommy's doing great things right now. She's helping the world. She'll be back. She's like a hero."
I'm extremely proud of Monica. I think that her journey as a teacher and the confidence that she gained in going through the process of becoming a staff developer, attending Summer Institute as a participant, and now attending staff developer training. I want her to know that I'm her biggest cheerleader, that I am supporting her all the way, and that anything she needs, I'm here to help.
I'm proud of Monica because even though the fact that she had the stomach ailments, the no sleep the first night, and you in there in the morning with your camera, she just did it. She was resilient enough to take the advice and build on her own practice. And I'm proud of all staff developers because I know, especially through the process of evaluation from their participants, you try so hard to do it right, and I know the ambitions of the whole group are very high.
We as teachers have a responsibility to keep on growing and living and learning ourselves, because that's what we can bring back to the classroom. I'm proud of myself because the impact has now been made. It's all going out. The space shuttle has lifted off. In effect, these students, this global community that we're becoming with 3 days. It's mind-blowing if you think about the way that it happens. And I had something to do with that. That makes me proud.